recipe or for this, program to make tangible fruits for the people, I think it will take a little bit more time than what has already passed. But one can say, despite, by the way, first, I myself was a critic of this program. But after weighing, after entering into dialogue with, locally and both internationally, if for nothing, just because the alternative is not workable.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think people need to be a little bit more patient with it. And we are hoping that the coming few months, gradually, things will start to move on.
Okay, okay, yes, I agree. I fully agree with you. These people, it's not a mistake of the ordinary people or the mistake of the maybe the incubator, maybe the government, because it's very important. And you know that the recipe is a little bit tough, difficult. You should have, through the media, through the direct rallies, through, they should have talk to the people or to the leaders of the people, like the resistance in the different parts of the country, the big towns, so that you tell them that, okay, it's good, this program, it will take time so that you can reap or pick the fruits of this. Meanwhile, as everybody knows, it's like medicine. Medicine before it's for complete remedy. Sometimes medicine is surgery. It is very, very harmful.
Yes.
So I agree with you. But that's why what some people, they say, okay, you are telling us this now Sudan name has been lifted from the states sponsoring terrorism. And Sudan started joining the banking, world banking, the global banking system, and Sudan, they said, although the lifting of these sanctions and name from sponsoring terrorism, is still people, they talk about the situation is worsening. It's not going ahead. What can you tell us about, you have been, you know, how meticulous these institutions, very careful, they are not in a hurry, not like us. The institutions, they have a program, they have a format, they have a procedure, they have to follow it. Without that, they cannot jump over things. What can you say about the impatience of the people that nothing has been reaped by lifting Sudan from the name of the state sponsoring terrorism, by lifting sanctions altogether of the American sanctions? Still people,
yes,
that...
I think this brings us to two very important considerations in this respect. The first one is dialogue, national dialogue. To me, the efforts to launch a comprehensive national dialogue about the economic agenda which has been implemented, I think a lot remains to be done in that respect, in the sense that the government ought to make use of all its media outlets, formally and informally, to explain, as you rightly suggested, that the hardships which are still continuing, they are very painful, I fully agree. Everybody is feeling them, including my own self. The way I have to queue for petrol, the way I have suffered from power shortages, electricity shortages, etc. Everybody is suffering from that. There is no
paying
doubt
for
about it.
commodities, oil, edible
Yes,
oil,
yes.
egg, meat.
Yes, yeah. All livelihood is being a difficulty now. And it is indiscriminate. It is affecting almost everybody, maybe in varying degrees or at varying levels, but everybody is suffering from that. So with this scenario now facing everybody, I think the authority, with all its components, ought to address the people frankly and with a lot, or with significant, or with very clear vision that, okay, now you have been patient with us. By the way, people have been relatively very patient with respect to the the pain they are suffering from. So they should give them a time horizon as to how long this will take and what we have in mind to mitigate these hardships, to mitigate this pain, to dilute what people are suffering from, to give alternatives to power shortages, to give alternatives to, say, transportation shortages, to give alternative to food shortages. How are we going to bridge these gaps in the coming future? So if people are aware through, that brings me to the second point, which is what I call communication strategy. You need to have a strategy as to how to communicate this program to the rank and file, to the people, because the people would not understand how long the gestation period for this program will take, unless you, the government or the people who are responsible for this, explain to them quite clearly that we are going to take you for 1 year, we are going to take you for 2 years, and then after that you will feel so and so and so and so, and we have to take you that long for 1 year or 2 years because of what we had before, because of the difficulties we are facing ourselves, etc., etc. This brings me to the role of the international community in that respect. It is true that the government has been promised that if you go through this program, through these hardships, then this is a gateway to reintegration into the international community. To me, so far, there are already signs of that happening already, since last year, since, June last year. You see, it's almost 1 year now. The international community is in varying degrees or varying levels. That included, of course, the Secretary of State of the United States.
Yes.
It includes the Foreign Secretary of United Kingdom. And it included so many top officials from the European Union, from African Union, etc., etc. This has never used to happen with any level of frequency during the 30 years of the previous regime. So that in itself, although this cannot be transferred into food in our baskets immediately, but it gives us hope that down the line things are going to improve. And I'm sure that everybody now is looking forward to next month.
Next month?
Yes, where we have the conference, which is organized, the Paris conference.
But before that, let me interrupt you. Before that,
sure.
Before that, okay, you said, we admitted that the first stage of application of the recipe of the World Bank and the IMF and reintegration of the global international community, economic community, it takes time, and people should be aware and should be prepared to this. But there are some efforts or endeavors to mitigate the gap of the real needy, the poor.
Yes.
You are telling me that before this episode that the people below the poverty line are almost 64%.
Yes.
What about the direct assistance?
Yes.
To mitigate the gap created by the lifting of subsidies?
Yes.
How can it be done?
Yes. Unfortunately, not much in that respect is done, because that in itself needs some sort of infrastructure to make it go smooth and effective in its, say, dissipation and, say, until it reaches those who are affected. Here there are also two problems. One of the problems is the quantum. Of course, the family support was calculated more than 1 year ago to be five US dollars. Relatively speaking, $5 at that time could have some impact on the food basket of the ordinary family at that time. But $5 now is only a chicken. So it would be absurd to convince somebody that you have been supported by the government by 1 chicken per month.
No.
And 5 chickens per family for the whole month. That in itself, I think it needs significant revision so that it can become palatable and acceptable by the rank and file. The other thing, which if you even could mobilize more resources, whether internally or externally, to support the families to mitigate the impact of the economic agenda, then some work has to be done concerning the infrastructure as to how we are going to reach out to these families, not only in the capital, or in the center of Khartoum, not only in the outskirts of Khartoum, but in the cities and outskirts of 18 states in Sudan.
Yes.
Mind you, we have to put into consideration that in the states, the demand is higher for this support
Yeah.
because people there are relatively much, much, much poorer than in the big cities, including Khartoum.
Yes.
So I fully agree that something has to be done fast.
Because
In this respect.
I kept saying this because some of the European countries, I think they donated. They started going on the direction of like, I think, but few dollars, 60 million,
Yes.
few dollars. They so it's a start. But what do you think about the data, statistics?
Yes.
To differentiate between the needy, the poor, the really poor. It is one of the hurdles of applying equitably these subsidies.
You are absolutely right. I fully agree. This is what I meant by the requirements of providing all set of infrastructure, including, of course, the data.
The data.
Including statistics, including family households to monitor which families are in need, where are they placed, how you can reach them, etc., etc. This ought to be done fast, because otherwise the patience of people, if they are patient politically, and if they are patient, say, administratively, the patience with hunger is very, very difficult.
Very difficult.
To be sustained over a long period of time. So this calls for fast action to be made by the government, to be done by the government, to be implemented by the government, with the support, with the direct and very needed support of the international community.
Yes.
Yes.
I tell you also, which I just want to remind you of, sure you know it. It's not necessarily that the assistance, the social assistance, goes across the board equally to each and every person, because people below the poverty line, definitely the degree of poverty is different. Sometimes you find very, 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 very poor.
Correct.
They have nothing.
Correct.
And so it could have also be one of the difficulties. The painstaking business is how to categorize.
Yes.
You group A, you give say $10. You group B, 20. Like this, it could be.
Yes.
But it is difficult.
It's cumbersome. It's cumbersome. But I think this can be overcome by one aspect, which, thank God, Sudanese do have. And it has been inherited over generations,
Yeah.
which is the family extended system. I think that could be recalled in these particular days if somebody, say, of the family who is not that poor, so to speak, and received some sort of support, whether, say, intentionally or unintentionally, my hunch or my feeling from the heritage of the Sudanese people, that will trickle down to the poor people. Maybe not with the same level of efficiency, but I think this will help to overcome the difficulty of having to perfect the categorization of the dissemination of the support to the families. So we have to resort to whatever means that is possible so that we can reach these poor, whether directly or indirectly. But something has to be done quickly.
Yes, and also don't forget the very active these youth, the revolutionaries, in each and every part of the town here in Khartoum or Omdurman. They know everybody. They know who is the poor, who is the poorest,
Yes.
who is middle. They know. If they give confidence to these and trust these people,
Yes.
of course you cannot have it.
Organizations like this can be very helpful.
Yes.
The resistance committees.
Yes.
Yeah, they are because they are well entrenched in the communities.
The community, and
they
they
can
know.
also be very supportive in that respect.
That
they
could
can
be
help.
practical. Okay, this is very good.
Yes.
Okay, we go now to the important issue which you just touched it, and I interrupted you,
Yes.
about next month on the 17th and 18th of May in Paris, a festival, a big rally, economic rally, international rally about Sudan, and already it was preceded by decision. How I read it in the media, whether true or not, that the IMF and the World Bank recommended lifting or partially lifting the debt of Sudan, external debt of Sudan, and that Sudan is now eligible for the HIPC, the heavily indebted poor countries program initiated by the United Nations. What can you tell us about this? Because I intend in this episode not to raise the hopes and expectations of people so that when things a little bit slow, goes slow, they will not be disappointed, they will not be resistant to the change, are resistant to the global interference or global assistance to Sudan. Tell us, because we want people to be patient.
Yes.
Nothing can be done like this.
Yes. You see here, let me first comment on the initiative which was made first by Germany last year to host international partners of Sudan. And that, of course, included so many pledges from various multilateral and bilateral donors. And now, of course, the turn of France, which is also commendable. Of course, one would like to say here that historically, these consultative group meetings are normally hosted in Paris, historically. I personally have the privilege throughout my career of attending more than 10 of those kind of conferences for various African countries. But we do hope that besides this, France also is interested in supporting the post-revolution Sudan. That would be a great addition, because France is a very important global country. It's very important in the national community. And of course, it is more important in Africa. So this in itself, I think I would like to pause a little bit and comment favorably on that France or Paris is going to host this conference.
Okay.
I fully agree that people should not be overly optimistic, because the way or the modalities these bilaterals and multilateral organizations, when they meet there for either for pledging or for revising the debt burden of the developing countries, they have been always being governed or and rule, or they follow certain paths, certain patterns of action. Of course, the lead in that respect are the two major multilateral organizations, the International Monetary Funds and the World Bank. We are now starting to be placed relatively in better positions in the books of these two organizations. And they are supporting in that respect. And of course, now we are going some distance in terms of debt relief. We are almost complete with the decision point, almost. Maybe by May it will be finalized. And from there we take it up until we reach the completion point of debt relief.
Yes, I read about this. Can you just give us about, there are two steps.
Yes.
Decision point and completion point. Can you elaborate?
The decision point is basically what we are doing now. That constitutes almost 80% of the decision point. The economic agenda you are following. And that started in Sudan since 2020.
Okay.
2020 budget. And it continued up to 2021 budget, including, of course, the revision of the exchange rate. And lately, of course, even the duties exchange rate is being revised gradually. So in that respect, and then they have something like, say, poverty
program.
Yeah.
This is a decision point.
All this in the decision point.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are saying that already passed this, Sudan passed this decision point?
Almost. Because even the draft poverty strategy paper is complete. Okay. It's done. And that's one of the aspects, or one of the preconditions of passing through the decision point. So the government went some commendable distance on that respect. At least they cannot be blamed for not passing the decision point.
Okay.
And that, of course, qualified us for subsequent stages of debt relief as well as support.
Okay.
And of course, already will be, say, eligible for IDA support, which is almost $2 billion US. and
AIDA?
International Development Agency.
Okay,
Yes,
AIDA.
that belongs to the World Bank.
The World
it is
Bank.
it is a soft window, or it's a soft window support or financial agency.
So
It gives support with very very soft terms,
Terms.
almost negligible, almost grants.
like a grant.
Almost like grants, yeah. You pay
But
it
it
over
ha-
very long periods. They pay it, and very small interest rates, etc.
So Sudan will be eligible
Will
for
be eligible for that.
For
It's
that.
already, yeah, it's
Two-
already
2 billion.
crossed some distance for that, yeah, towards that. The type of projects, that's the other thing which is good about it, is that the type of projects which are eligible under IDA are also demanded and required for sustaining peace.
sustaining peace.
Yes, because there will be small projects helping the grassroots, the small communities, etc.,
Yeah.
etc., with their living, with their health services, with their educational services, etc., etc. And this, of course, could be very conducive towards the sustenance of peace, which has been signed in October last year. So, in that respect, that would be a blessing and something to look forward to. Unfortunately, the gap is much higher than that. It's much bigger than that. We are talking about 6 billion US dollars.
60.
Yeah, 660. So that in that respect, neither the bilateral organizations nor the multilateral sources of funds could supply support to bridge this kind of gap. This opens the way for what we call private investment. That companies come to Sudan, benefiting from hopefully the attractive investment climate from now on, that the country is now more peaceful, that the political environment is now more stable, hopefully. So in that respect, that would help us to try to bridge the gap from other sources than official support coming from multilateral and bilateral donors. And in that respect, the political incubator of the government need to do some work in that.
How?
And how? By not at least being hostile to the investors. Because somehow, I don't know where is the source of this. Yani. We have always been, say, apprehensive. We have always been, say, very
Hostile towards-
suspicious.
very-
And that reaches hostility even.
Yes.
If somebody come with, say, trying to invest in arid lands, for hundreds of years,
It was,
the land is big.
But people, they start talking about
But when you start doing something, people will be mobilized. Maybe, by the way, political incubator, the historical political incubator, but not now, even from the previous regime, they bring people together, etc., with their swords, with their any sort of weapons they have, and they stop the projects from going on. So this, I think, ought to stop.
land ownership, huh?
Yes. So, the atmosphere is very important, because official aid cannot alone take us out of the deep hole we found ourselves in from the previous regime.
So you are advising people that to be a little bit patient, and to advise the incubator not to be hostile.
Yes, indeed.
At least
To be receptive. Why not? Why should they be receptive?
Yes, yes.
Look, Engineer Omar, there is, in this day, today, nobody will come to support you just because of the color of your eyes or the color of your skin. No. It has to be a win-win situation.
Yes.
So you cannot win alone, especially if you don't have money.
Yes.
So
You have
if
no
you need
authority.
money, you have to allow for a win-win situation.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Okay, Professor, we have our last question, which is because I said the time is all half the ordinary time, but we have a very important question. You want to tell the viewers about the fiscal federalism. We know federal in different aspects of the, but now for me or for the viewers, what is the fiscal or money, or what is this fiscal federalism?
Okay. I think to make it very simple, at least here, now let us start with that. We have three levels of government
Okay.
or of governance, if you want. We have the federal government, we have the regional government, and we have the local government.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have three levels of federalism. We have political, we have administrative, and we have fiscal. The political federalism is that you transfer powers, authority,
Okay.
that from the central government or the federal government, you have political authorities, say, kick down to or trickle down to the subnational levels, be it regional or local. Administrative is that you assign some sort of administrative responsibilities to these authorities, to lower level authorities, to undertake, say, to give services, to provide education, to provide health, to provide, etc., all sorts of administrative support. The third one, which is the most important one, is the fiscal federalism. And that monitors or governs the financial transfers between these three levels of governments.
I see.
So how the resources flow from the central or from the federal government to the regional government, and from the regional government to the local authorities. So this is how
The
fiscal
fiscal-
federalism comes to the picture. It is important because, you know, especially in a country like Sudan, as you know, you have got various types of regions, various types of climate, various types of ethnic, although I don't like it to be done on ethnic grounds, but let us say on the geography of Sudan. Geography, you know, it is preferable if you have this kind of subnational levels of governance so as to help the central government.
So fiscal federalism is just it's a means of how to distribute or to the channels for the
Exactly.
central money to be equitably and fairly
Correct. Absolutely
and
correct.
fairly
And, this
distributed.
brings me to a very important two aspects of consideration, which the one of them is the what you call vertical, say, equity between the government or the central government and the regional government or the subnational government, in the sense that there would be equity in terms of, say, if the government controls the revenue, then it should also control the expenditure.
The expenditure,
But
yes.
you cannot control the revenue while leaving the expenditure to the
expenditure.
subnational levels.
Yeah.
That will make
Distortion.
That will make a distortion. That would be vertical inequity.
Okay.
Then you have horizontal equity, which is also related to this fiscal, say, federalism, is that you have to distribute these resources evenly or equitably between the regions, so that those who are having higher standards of living or of income, they receive lesser, while those who are deprived, they receive more.
So it will be done according to certain criteria.
Certain
It's not-
criteria,
it's not-
there is a certain equation actually.
Equation, okay.
Very, very delicate equation, so as to monitor, so as to make these flows flow in such a way that it will preserve the vertical and the horizontal equities.
Accept. That is very, very, very good. The unfortunate the episode is very short because of Ramadan. Everybody, you are tired, I am tired, maybe
Ramadan Kareem.
viewers
Ramadan
also will be tired. So thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last 30 or 40 minutes in a very interesting topic with our scholar, economic professor Makki Madani Shibli. I think he answered a lot of good, important questions to the viewers. And the most important is that he's advised that viewers should be a little bit patient. He knows that he himself is suffering from the coming and the ongoing changes. But he is asking people to be a little bit patient because the government is going in the right direction. And this is the only way so that Sudan can be delivered from its unprecedented failure in the economy. Thank you, dear viewers. We hope to see you next week in a different topic. Thank you. Bye.